How was everyone week so far? Allah. Sisters, how's your week been? One word. Interesting. All right. Sisters, how was your week? One word. Growth. Praise Allah. Praise Allah. Brothers, welcome. Peace. How's your week been? Long. One word. Indeed. Mine was eventful. Praise Allah. And it was also productive in the sense of growth. As we go through this journey in this realm, we have to remember that whether we know it or not, we have a task to do. Again, whether we are fully aware of that task and that responsibility, or whether it takes time for us. As we know from our studies and our scriptures, our prophets were even reluctant to understand what their calling was until they received a sign from the Most High, regardless of what you call them, to do their duty and help to bring the bands of society together. Today, we're going to draw from Moorish Holy Quran, chapter 4, the death and burial of Elizabeth, Matheno's lessons in the ministry of death. For those of you all who have the red book, chapter 4 is on page 10. For those of you who have otherwise, whoever gets there first, you can help us out and let us know what page it may be on. Page 8. I don't think it does. Does it have the number on it? So it's 8 pages from the beginning.
So it's the 4th page from the beginning.
4th page from the beginning. There you go. And let me hear some Islams when we get to that chapter. Islam. Death and burial of Elizabeth, Matheno's lessons, the ministry of death. First verse. When John was 12 years old, his mother died, and neighbors laid her body in a tomb among her kindred in the Hebron burying ground and near to Zacharias' tomb. For those who do not know, we're referring to John the Baptist. In the Moorish Divine and National Movement, we also refer to him as the Harbinger, or the Spirit of the Harbinger. He is one of the messengers who brought about the concept of purity. And as we say in the temple, before love, there must be a way, there must be a path by purity. So in this instance, we're discussing John the Baptist and what he went through during his mother, Elizabeth, her passing and veiling of the form. Zacharias, of course, is his father. And we also have in our Moorish Holy Quran, and our Quran lessons for Moorish American, we see that our bloodline, the bloodline of Jesus, is traced through Zacharias. Islam? Y'all with me? Islam. Goes on in 2, it said, and John was deeply grieved. He wept. Matheno said, it is not well to weep because of death. Death is no enemy of man. It is a friend who, when the work of life is done, just cuts off the cord that binds the human boat to earth, that it may sail onto smoother seas. Islam? No language can describe a mother's worth, and yours was tried and true. But she was not called, hence until her tasks were done. Islam? Last Holy Day meeting, we discussed the meaning of truth, the difference between truth and falsehood. And we define truth as the element which is constant, that will never pass away. And we define falsehood as that illusion, is that inconsistency on any level. Contrary to popular belief, our forms are falsehood. It will eventually pass away. But the spirit that is within us, the spirit of Allah, is that truth, is that haqq, as they say in Arabic, that is constant and will never pass away. So when we begin to further understand that even though the body has veiled the form or is no longer in this plane, and not only the spirit of Allah is within us, but the spirit of our loved ones that pass away, we'll know that they will always be with us as Allah, being closer to your jugular vein, as well as being in your heart. Islam? The cause of death are always for the best. For we are solving problems there as well as here. And one is sure to find himself where he can solve his problems best. It is but selfishness that makes one wish to call again to earth departed souls. Then let your mother rest in peace. Just let her noble life be strength and inspiration to you. Islam? As Medina was giving his demonstration to John, as his heart was heavy, he was explaining that there's a reason why your mother passed. There's a reason why your mother veiled the form. Because there was a duty that she was called to do in another realm. There was something that she was destined to do beyond this world. Those of us that may have that degree of transcending or going from world to world may have a glimpse of what the trials and tribulations may be. But the things that we go through, or the transgressions and the challenges that we go through, are not just in this realm. They're in other realms, whether they be physical or spiritual. And once you leave this physical realm, you still have a journey ahead of you in the spiritual realm. So do not for one think that your journey or your struggle, if you will, is over, because you still have to get to that essence. Islam? We all like to think that, or we all have heard that when a loved one passes away, that it was not his time to go. Why do we say these things? Do we say them because we still have an attachment to them? And hopefully I'm not stepping on any toes, for lack of a better word. But again, when that chair or the vehicle that you drive in is an illusion. And you know, some of us have friends and relatives that are almost just as attached to those material things as they more than their loved ones. They take care of them more than their loved ones. They take care of certain animals, dogs, cats, more than their loved ones, more than their flesh and blood. But when the flesh and blood finally decides to leave and depart from this realm, that's when we become sorrowful. But again, we must not think about the times that they're not here, but the times that they are here. For those are the best of times. Those are the times that inspire us. Those are the times that enable us or gives us strength to go forward. That is the additional holy breath that we receive when we think about our mothers and our fathers that pass away. And granted, we all must remember that physical, because that's what we can touch, that's what we can feel, that's what we can see. But is it wrong not to have that similar love for your family in the spirit as you do for Allah? Because you see His workings every day, from the time you wake up, from the time that you breathe, before you go to sleep. That's all a part of you. So they're still with you. Islam? 9. The sages of the ages call you harbinger. The prophets look to you and say, "He is Elijah come again." Your mission here is that of harbinger. For you will go before the Messiah's face to pave his way and make the people ready to receive their king. This readiness is purity of heart. None but the pure of heart can recognize the king. To teach men to be pure at heart, you must yourself be pure at heart and word and deed. Islam? There comes a time where you will be tested. And that test should not deter you from your purpose. If anything, that test or that challenge may cause you to discover your purpose. Especially during these trying times amongst our brothers and sisters in the Asiatic community. With the turmoil going on and the oppression that's going on. We must find the strength to move forward with what we are called to do. We as Moorish Americans, we who are conscious and know that our situation can be better. We must not let our emotions control our thoughts. We must not let our passions guide us through a time where it's very important for us to have a clear conscience. So we may contemplate the next move. Those of you all that are familiar with chess, you have opponents that will taunt you. You have opponents that will seek to kick you off your game. But yet you must still have that reserve and that calmness and that stillness of voice in yourself to think things through. Islam? And again, before I move forward, we think in the Asiatic community, or we have the concept of in the Asiatic community of unity. What brings about unity? Love, trust, understanding brings about that unity. But how do we establish those attributes and those elements if our hearts are not pure? And I'm not talking about pure where there's derogatory thoughts of anything like that, but I'm referring to what perceptions that you may have towards your brother or your sister from the opposite side of the field. Whatever inhibitions and misconceptions that you may have, how you may work through them, how you must work through them to bring about that purity. How can you love your brother or sister if you still have certain thoughts toward them, if you still don't trust them? I'm pretty sure some of you all have been in certain classes where they've done that, that test of trust, where you have that one person, you stand in front of them and you fall back, and because you got to trust that they catch them. How many of y'all done that before? How many of y'all have actually failed? So, even though that may be considered as an extreme analogy, that's something that we must practice, regardless of what organization that you're in. Moorish Science Temple of America, Hebrew Israelites, Red, Black, and Green, Black Panther, so on and so forth. Where is that common denominator that establishes that trust and that purity so love can pave the way? Because without that love, we're never going to trust each other. We're never going to be able to move forward as a people overall, as the Asiatic community, unless that trust and that love has been established. That common denominator. As I said before, no matter how much we argue with each other about whose doctrine is right, our children still have to go to school. The gas prices are still fluctuating up and down. We still have to protect our communities. We still have to establish an economy. Those do not necessarily calls for a clash in ideologies, because I'm sure once we sit down and talk, we'll have more similarities than we do differences. But again, this is the work that we're called to do, whether you recognize it or not. Why do we say this? Why do I say this? Because you're here now. So something must have compelled you. Something in your spirit must have compelled you to seek an avenue of recompense. Are y'all with me? Islam. 12. To teach men to be pure at heart. You must yourself be pure at heart and word and deed. In infancy, the vow for you was made, and you became a Nazarite. The razor shall not touch your face nor head, and you shall taste not wine nor fiery drinks. Men need a pattern for their lives. They love to follow, not to lead. The man who stands upon the corners of the paths and points the way, but does not go, is just a pointer, and a block of wood can do the same. Islam? I want you to think to yourself, if we could, as a society, generally speaking, live without a particular pattern in our lives. Some of us have the concept or think that religion is synonymous with dogma. We think that the ritualistic practices and the traditions are what hinder us from excelling, from prosperity, from uniting. And one would even go as far to say that the best way to begin that unity is to eliminate the practices, the ritualistic practices, the things that remind you of your higher purpose. Let's think about this. When you wake up in the morning, what are the main three things that you do? You wash your face, you brush your teeth, you cook your breakfast. So those are general concepts. But why do we do these things? Are we demonstrating those things, if you will, just because our mother told us to do it? Or are we brushing our teeth because we don't want a foul-smelling breath when we talk to someone? Do we wash our face because if I'm talking to this brother or this sister, you don't want me rubbing the eyes, getting the crust and the dirt out of my eyes? Because that's good hygiene. Why do we eat breakfast in the morning or have at least a piece of fruit? Because it gives us the energy needed to go out throughout the day until it's the next time for us to have nourishment. Why do we do these things? Simply put, to make our lives better. We believe, well, not only believe, but we have faith that if we do these things on a consistent basis every day, then we'll become better people. Are we all in agreement to that? Is that not a ritual? Or are we expecting that when we think of ritual, we're thinking of chimes and incense? Rituals are practices to make you a better person. Period. The prophet said men need a pattern for their lives. They love to follow, not to lead. Does that by any way discourage man? No. But what it does is it gives him a foundation, a guideline for him to go by so that he may excel. If you have no standards to live by, how do you know whether or not you're excelling?
Society standards.
Society standards. So where are you at in society? If that's the case, look at the conditions of our people. How are you to bring your people out of those conditions if you don't have the standards by which to bring them out of the condition? But it goes on by saying, a man who stands upon the corners, and I'm repeating this for a reason, upon the corners of the path and points the way, but does not go, is just a pointer, and a block of wood can do the same. How many of us, when we're asked for directions, do we point? Do we say, you go this way, you go that way? Well, let's do this. How many of us worked at a grocery store or somewhere in retail? I'm the only one that worked in retail. In retail, you have this concept called ICE. And let me see. ICE stands for something customer experience. But in other words, the goal of ICE is just that, to make sure when that customer goes into the store, that they have the best customer experience. So when they leave out, they feel good about not only what they purchased, but wants to tell their friends and their family about where they go so they can experience that same thing. Are y'all with me? So how many of us went to a Walmart and they asked, well, where's the deodorant? Where's the butter? Where's the almond milk? And you got somebody that say, well, it's on aisle 8. How many of you are supposed to know what aisle 8 is if you've never been to that Walmart? So now you got to go and count the lanes. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then sometimes they don't even have the lanes up there. It's like in the corner somewhere, so you got to go back. And at the same time, while you're going back, the person is just going about their business doing something else. So now you wasted time. But how many of you, whether you worked in retail or if you've experienced this before, asked, well, where those items are? And someone said, well, let me show you where it is. Let me guide you to your destination. Because that person that I've spoken of before, he may know where it is, but he just told you. He didn't direct you. He didn't leave that path clearly cut. So how are you to follow that? Versus someone who not only knows the way, but can show you the way by works and deeds. Islam?
I'm just going to speak for a few minutes, and then I'll bring on our assistant governor, and then I'll come and get to my face again. I'll speak last. Moors, I just want to impart to you just this bit of advice and this bit of wisdom. To count back on what Noble Chairman was demonstrating. Do not allow yourself to play into what's being put before you. Islam, one of the biggest things that the Prophet Noble Ali came to return to the Moors, right? And when I say the Moors, let's be clear. I'm speaking about all of our people. Islam, I don't care if they call themselves African Americans. I don't care if they call themselves Latinos. I don't care if they call themselves Jamaicans, Trinidadians, San Salvadorians. I don't care. All of these are descendants of the once former Moorish Empire. Islam, Moorish Empire which spread across all of Northern Africa, Northwestern Africa, Southern Europe, North, Central, South America, and the adjoining islands. All of that was your empire. Islam, all of that, within all of that was found people that looked just like you. Within all of that was found your forefathers and your foremothers. Islam, all right? Knowing that, all right? The Prophet Noble Ali came to return that legacy to us because they had been interrupted by what you have, now as the slavery institution. Islam, you call it slavery, but it was actually a grand kidnapping. It was actually a grand conspiracy. Islam, that grand conspiracy was to basically take your birthrights and your inheritance away from you. All right? To basically kidnap you and bind you on your own land, by the way. Because part of that empire was the sword that you're on right now. See, I know I'm jumping, but it's all going to tie in. If you look at right now, the dashiki movement, you said that wearing dashikis, right? And the mentality behind wearing the dashikis is that to go back in the mindset of our forefathers to demonstrate that which is African. Islam? Is that not why our people are wearing dashikis, right? But have you noticed those ones with African nationalities don't wear dashikis? I don't see brothers from Senegal wearing dashikis. I don't see brothers from Nigeria wearing dashikis. I don't see brothers from Egypt or Sudan wearing dashikis. What do they wear? They wear their own national dress. Islam? Because with your nationality, it comes a language. It comes a flag. It comes a constitution. It comes customs, so on and so forth. And you know what the interesting part about the dashiki movement is? Have you looked at the inner tag of your dashiki? Is it made in Africa? In any country in Africa? Or is it made in Indonesia? Or India? Or Taiwan? Islam? See, this is games you play on people who don't know who they are. Islam? And until we find out who we are, we'll still get pitched these false ideals and concepts. Until we find out who we are, right, they can still put an incident on TV and we respond to it. Something you're always going to hear me say, you know, because this is a message Allah's laid on my heart, is the fact that they'll provide a particular incident, problem, you react, and they provide a solution. That's their formula. Why change it if it's working? This thing's been working since the time of the Crusades. Why change it? Islam? So this is what's going on. This is what our prophet, when I say our prophet, I don't mean just us in the more science. I mean all Asiatics of the Americas. Our prophet, Noble Drew Ali, came to return to us the concept of circumscribing your passions so you don't fall into these particular plots and ploys. Islam? We have to become wiser as a nation because, be clear, you are indeed a nation within a nation. Islam? Yes, this is the United States of America. But within the United States of America is a conglomeration of people of various different national descents. Islam? So what do we have here? What nationalities do we have here in America? You have people from what? English descent. You have people from French descent. You have people from Senegalese descent. You have people from Chinese descent. What descent are you? Have you ever stopped to ask that? I'll give you an example, right, of the things that you think you have but you don't. Anybody remember the terrorist bombing that took place in France not too long ago? Remember that? And for those into social media and Facebook and all that stuff, remember everybody on their profile picture was putting the flag of France up? Since all the shootings of Asiatics here in America, has there been any flags put up for you? But why is that though? Is it because it's racist that they're not putting up a flag? Or is it because you don't have one that you proclaim? What's the flag you're going to put up for a Negro? What's the flag you're going to put up for an African American? What's this flag? All right? Because we know flags are tied to soil. Islam? Now we could say the red, black, and green, but that's a banner. That represents an idea, not a pedigree people and the soil of the land. Islam? All right? Islam, boys?
Islam.
Please be seated. Arise, giving all praises to Allah, Father of the universe, cherisher, sustainer of all the boundless universes. I'm giving the highest of honors to his prophet, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Redeemer and Savior of humanity. Islam, boys?
Islam.
So many powerful measures demonstrated on the floor this evening. Well, I don't think you realize how blessed you are to not for you to be in our presence. It's not what it's about. But for you to come to have a place to go where you can find out the truth about your nationality and birthrights. Islam? Within our Moorish movement, and indeed I do mean ours, we have many different authors that the Prophet Noble Drew Ali has inspired to pick up the pen and teach men that which he never would have known. Islam? I myself am blessed to be one of those authors. Our brother Sheikh Charles Brownell is one of those authors. We also have another author named Sheikh Eric Munjan Bey, who authored this book, Discover the Key to the Moorish Questionary. Again, it's a study guide for all Moorish Americans. Islam?
Islam.
He, very powerful book, but in here he gives a strong draw on the mind state that you're supposed to be in when you enter the temple. Islam?
Islam.
All right? Because again, it's been so long since we had an edifice that we could come in and learn the truth about ourselves. We forgot how to come in and how to treat it. Islam?
Islam.
So I'm going to draw from this, this honorable Sheikh's demonstration. It says, this is in a chapter called Introduction into the Key. It says, the great meeting is on. It says, when you enter a temple, leave all your earth cares and troubles outside. Discuss not its various ills or wants, but try and bring in the mind of rapport with the spiritual thoughts and ideas. The mind of the student should be in a passive state rather than an active state, pure thoughts by love of truth and of humanity. When it says passive rather than active, it just means that's in the sense of receiving. Islam? Says the student should not desire anything in particular, but unite in being pleased to receive that which is best for all. A meeting may produce most important results, not only for those who take part in it, but also for their unconscious neighbors. But in order that it might do this, the member must understand the hidden side of the meeting and must work with a view to produce the highest possible effects. Many members utterly overlook this most important part of their work and have, in consequence, quite an unworthy idea of what a temple is. There are times that a member may feel that some meetings are often rather dull, and so he does not always want to attend them. A member who may feel this has not grasped the most spiritual truth about the work of a temple. He evidently, or she, evidently supposes that it exists for the purpose of amusing him, and if its meetings are not interesting to him, he thinks that he or she is better off at home. The excuse for such an attitude, if there is an excuse, is that through many lives, and probably through the earlier part of this life, such a man has been looking at everything entirely from the outside and from the selfish point of view, and he is now only gradually accustoming himself to the true and higher standpoint, the common sense attitude which takes account of all factors, the higher as well as the lower and less important. Islam? I just thought that was very inspiring, because you have to have a sense of purpose anytime you come to a meeting scenario. Islam? Anyone ever attended a corporate meeting before? Okay, business meeting? Generally for a business meeting, there's usually an agenda. And when the agenda is basically the construct under which the meeting is supposed to be guided. Islam? There's usually a chairman, a chairwoman who makes sure that that in all the discourse of the evening, that everything follows that particular agenda. Islam? Prophet Noble Drew Ali gives us our agenda in his writings. Like if you read his entire body of work, right? There's one section where he says, read carefully the doctrines of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Islam? It doesn't say, just blaze through them. It says read carefully. Reading carefully the doctrines of the Moorish Science Temple of America could easily take a lifetime. Even though the booklets that the Prophet brought are indeed tiny. Islam? It doesn't take volumes to tell the truth per se, right? It takes a few pages to tell the truth. It takes volumes to tell lies. Islam? It is said that the present IRS code is 7 times longer than the Bible. Not being radical, agitating, I think that's interesting. Islam? All right? You have to study and jump in with 2 feet the work of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Because if you go in with the understanding that we were raised with in America, first of all, we all have to admit that in order for the present power base to be in existence for the past couple hundred years, they had to make sure that the people remain ignorant. If the people are ignorant of their duties as citizens, they won't be able to hold those in power to their obligations. Islam? All right? See, as a parent, how many parents do we have in the room? See, as a parent, you can rule and raise your children any kind of way until your children get old enough to call you one. Has anybody ever seen that play out? Or had it happen to them? Where you're doing something and your child says, well, I don't think that's right. What you're doing right there, that's against what we're supposed to be about. And you don't do as that's called a tyrant. Islam? Let's see, the present, supposed to be fiduciaries, what you call senators and congressmen and so on and so forth, that are in power in the United States of America, have been ruling this way. And how have they been able to rule this way? Is because the citizens don't know what it is to be a citizen to hold them to their obligation. Islam? So one of the things that the Prophet Noble Drew Ali gets into is to, first of all, giving you back the power to define. Right? It's said in our temple here, temple number 19, that we spend a lot of time on definitions, always define something. The reason why we do that, we were actually inspired by the Prophet to do so, right? To give an example, chapter 47, for those of you who have your Qurans, Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, chapter 47, verse 9. According to all true and divine records of the human race, there is no Negro, black, or colored race attached to the human family, because all the inhabitants of Africa were and are of the human race, descendants of the ancient Canaanite nation from the Holy Land of Canaan. What your ancient forefathers were, you are today, without doubt or contradiction. Again, chapter 47, verse 10. Okay? Again, reading that verse. What your ancient forefathers were, you are today, without doubt or contradiction. There is no one who is able to change man from the descendant nature of his forefathers unless his power extends beyond the great universal creator Allah himself. These holy and divine laws are from the prophet Noble Drew Ali, the founder of the uniting of the Moorish Science Temple of America. These laws are to be strictly preserved by the members of all the temples of the Moorish Science Temple of America, that they will learn to open their meaning and guide it according to the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Every subordinate temple of the Grand Major Temple is to form under the covenant of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and create their own laws and customs in conjunction with the laws of the Holy Prophet and the Grand Temple. I, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, was sent by the great God Allah to warn all Asiatics of America to repent from their sinful ways before that great and lawful day which is sure to come. That great and lawful day which is sure to come is here. Now, this is what you see when you turn on the news or when you go on Facebook. And you see the travesties that are taking place amongst our people. The great and lawful day which is sure to come, we're in. Islam? So you're standing in prophecy unfolding. Okay? Continuing. It says the time has come when every nation must worship under its own vine and fig tree. And every tongue must confess its own. Through sin and disobedience, every nation has suffered slavery due to the fact that they honored not the creed and principles of their forefathers. This is why the nationality of the Moors was taken away from them in 1774, and the words Negro, black, and colored was given to the Asiatics of America who were of Moorish descent, because they honored not the principles of their mother and father, and straight after the gods of Europe, of whom they knew nothing of. Islam? And then the gangs in New York, they were showing with the Europeans when they were first basically setting up the boroughs in New York, right? And they showed the different nationalities. I say it again, nationalities. They didn't come over here as white people. That's right. They came over here as Irish and English and so on and so forth. And they had to fight to establish their particular portion of the land. Islam? That's right. But when they came here, especially the Irish, they set up something. There was a hall when they got off the boat called Tammany Hall. This is in the movie. Tammany Hall. Anybody know who Chief Tammany was? Or Chief Tammany? Chief Tammany was a part of the Iroquois Federation. Okay? Iroquois Federation had the law of the Great Peace, which was a constitution that formed, basically was the body of law that kept a particular confederation of what you would call now Native Americans together. Okay? In the movie, they're in Tammany Hall, and there's a scene where it's like they're in the hallway and they're talking, right? And they stop out of nowhere. They just, they just have a picture. There's a person talking, and behind him is a portrait of Chief Tammany. Straight Asiatic. And they keep the frame on that photograph as though to tell you something. Because that scene makes no sense. Other than that, well, like, why are they staying here so long? But that scene was set up to show you the portrait in the back, and also they show you a statue of Chief Tammany, and he's an Asiatic. Right? But that hall was set up to teach these Europeans who were used to living under monarchies how to live under a republic. Islam? Islam. So it was a society set up to teach people the Republican form of government. And I don't mean Democrat Republican. I mean Article 4, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution. When it talks about the Republic. You have to be taught how to learn to live under that. You don't know it. You've never been taught it. 2 weeks ago on the news, they showed a group of about 50 people. They just became naturalized citizens of the United States. People from all different nations of the world. Right? What's the process to become a naturalized citizen? What do you have to know? Anybody? Constitution, amendments, articles, the branches of government. That's basic part of language, definitely. You have to be able to speak English. Even though you might not be fluent, but you have to be able to speak it. Islam? But there is a standard, right? But what happens if you were born here? Shouldn't you already know these things? If you're going to get the rights and privileges and immunities of a citizen of the United States, shouldn't you know these things? But what happens when you have a people that are born here that know none of it? That have never read a constitution if it didn't have to do with school? What do you do with those people? Because how are they living their lives? Will they live their life in conjunction with those laws, or will they not? Will they be ignorant of it? Can you live by something you don't know? Anyone? Not speaking radical or agitate, let's say, against our Christian brothers and sisters. But the average Christian brother and sister that you know believes in the Bible. They don't read it. And it shows in their lifestyle. Islam?
Islam.
Why you can have something called the Queens of Hip Hop on VH1. And they hold up before you Lil' Kim, Salt, Pepper, Missy, Queens. Y'all know, sister, could y'all stand up? I'm not going to ask you to come in front or say anything, just stand up. Sister. All the sisters in the room that don't mind standing. All right? They don't show us sisters that look like this and say, these are your queens. These are royalty. Thank you, sisters. They don't show you these. They'll show you a sister with blonde hair, facelift, eyelashes that aren't hers, body parts that aren't hers. Islam? They don't hold ones up that look like our foremothers or even our direct mothers. They don't hold that up and say, this is your royalty. They hold up these artificial types and say, these are your queens, worship that. Right? Polarize it, this is Queen Latifah and Lil' Kim, Queen B. Islam? Sisters, please be seated. These are the games we play, that they play on us. But we go for it and we applaud it, we cheered on, oh, hey, that was a good show, this and that. No, it wasn't. It was a freak show. Islam? Am I being radical and agitating? Or am I speaking the truth? The Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, truth is the remedy for the nations. And until the people accept it, there will always be religious controversy. Islam? All right? So we have to be taught these things. There's so much you don't know. So now, the question was posed earlier. What's wrong with the Black Lives Matter movement? I believe our brothers and sisters are sincere in their attendance of it. I honestly believe, I know they're sincere. They saw something, they were hurt by it, and they want to do something. Right? When you see an injustice, you're supposed to want to do something, aren't you? Right? But from what body of knowledge are you going to pull from for the solution? Okay? Now let's take the average. Let's say the average, constituent of, let's say, the Black Lives Matter movement. The average, right? Because we know our people, because they're our people. Islam? If you have the European's name as your legal name, if you have his religion, if you worship in his image, Islam? If you don't know law, right? I mean basic law, right? Pause, go to a sidebar. A week ago, Donald Trump, in his speaking passionately like he does, because he has a reality TV show type of demonstration, because he's dealing with a group of people that's all they watch, right? He said in one of his speeches, he said, I'm going to enforce the 12 articles of the Constitution. I only got one giggle in the room, because there's only 7 articles in the U.S. Constitution. This man is running for president of the United States. It took CNN anchorman to come back and say, wait, it's only 7. You see the problem with ignorance? See, you can be ruled over by someone that's ignorant or claiming to be ignorant, right? When you don't know any better, right? But you have to be brought in and taught these things. How are you going to hold him to obligation if you yourself don't know? Islam? Funny thing about, and I'll get back to what I was saying. Funny thing about the Islamic degree, and one of the previous prophets, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the Prophet Muhammad, the first command he was ever given was Iqra, which means to read. There's a power in reading. All of you have supercomputers in your pocket. Use it for something other than Skype and the stuff we use it for. Actually use it to look these things up, right? Pull up the fundamental doctrines and documents that created the policies, the politics that we call United States of America. Look up the Federalist Papers. Have you ever heard of that? Look up the Lincoln-Douglas debates. Okay? Look up the Emancipation Proclamation. Look up U.S. Constitution. Look up Articles of Confederation. And if I'm going too fast, this will be posted up by Monday. Allah willing. So go on YouTube and you'll be able to get it back. All right? Pull up the dates. Pull up 1776. Pull up 1774. Pull up 1863. Pull up 1865. Pull up 1868. Islam? All of these will unfold volumes of history, volumes of knowledge that right now, this stuff is, you think this is stuff taking place in the past. Issues that weren't resolved then, you suffer from right now. Islam? Right, there's a Mac, right? Your property. Islam? All right? Go on. The other method, okay, let me go back. It says, none of these qualify for the form of naturalization at quote-unquote African Americans experienced in 1868 AD with the passing of the 14th Amendment. The most important form of naturalization concerning the law of nations relative to the actual text, write this down, the law of nations by Emeric de Vattel is direct grant on application, which automatically negates the so-called Negro because he or she never applied for naturalization. Okay? The other method of acquiring nationality is by subjugation. The principle of subjugation was fused into the symbology of, which I'll skip that if you get the book it goes into, because I don't want to do that right now, all right? But it's a particular group that uses an emblem, and that emblem demonstrates subjugation. That's what I go into there, all right? But it says, through subjugation, one acquires the nationality of the conquering state or whatever mark they choose to stamp the conquered people with, i.e. Negro, black folks, colored people, African Americans, etc., okay? Subjugation is simply defined as conquest. Conquest is the taking by force of an enemy's possession in a time of war. Here's the thing that's left out of the whole slavery conversation. When they say that you were taken and made chattel slaves, what's left out is there was a series of wars that led up to that. They don't let you know that you fought wars and it was a series of wars that were lost and you were taken in and made such. They don't tell you that. Okay? They don't tell you about how many people have heard of the Gullah Wars, the Seminole Wars, right? Why the 13th Amendment? They didn't pass the 13th Amendment out of moral conscience. They couldn't sustain it economically, right? Because it was costing them too much to put down the rebellions, all right? So they had to reorganize their government. Same thing they're doing in England right now, where the Prime Minister stepped down and they broke away from the EU, and it's called reorganization. Everybody around the planet is reorganizing their mode of government to deal with current matters except us. We're still talking terms that kept us in slavery years ago. Islam? You have to get to the point where you reorganize what you're doing so it can be successful. The stuff we're doing now, my brother right here, Brother Randwise. I didn't put your name on camera, don't be on mine. This more posted some earlier in the week. He said, Google Birmingham, Alabama, 1963, and click images. And when you do, you see the same images you're seeing on television right now. Which means nothing has changed. Nothing. What are you doing now different than what your fathers and mothers did? You're using the same tactics, and they used tactics that we used before them. Islam? And the conditions still exist. You know the one thing you haven't tried? Prophet Noble Drew. We know Harriet Tubman, we know Frederick Douglass, we know Dr. Martin Luther King, we know Sojourner Truth, and honors be to all of them. But you don't know Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And if that's not conspiracy, I don't know what that is. You don't even know the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, or at least you think you do. Because if you knew the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, you'd been ready for Prophet Noble Drew Ali. You know, it said before the corn is planted, the ground must be prepared. Right? And that's exactly what the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey did. He prepared you. Right? He gave you a red, black, and green banner, which represented nationalism, but not nationality. So it preps you to know that you were supposed to have your own flag. Then here comes Prophet Noble Drew Ali with the flag. Gives it to you as a part of your birthright. You proclaim your nationality, this is yours. You don't charge for it. You ain't got to pay no $3,000 to get no paperwork. No, it's yours. Join the temple, pay your dues and assessments, get in line with Act 7, all is well. Simple. Islam is a simple faith. Islam? All right? But you know everyone else except Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and as a result, isn't any strange happening or coincidence that you suffer because you don't know that one. The way my mind works, if you show me all this over here and you got your hand behind your back, I want to be like, well, it's behind your back. You're going to show me all these leaders and you hide Noble Drew Ali. I want to know who is Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And it's no strange happening. He comes and tells you the exact opposite of what they're telling you. That you're not, nor were you ever Negro, black, and colored. Islam?
Islam.
Because again, there's no black land. There's no Negro land. There's no colored land. Islam?
Islam.
Right? But there is a Morocco. There was a Moorish Empire. Islam? And contrary to popular belief, you're standing in the Moorish Empire right now. Anybody ever seen the seal of the city of Atlanta? No one's ever seen the city seal? How many people live in Atlanta? Y'all live in Atlanta, right? But nobody's seen the city seal.
Islam. Yes.
All right? What's on the city seal? Phoenix. What is the phoenix? Something that rises out of its ashes. Rebirth, reincarnation, so on and so forth, right? What is the year that's on the bottom of the seal? 1865. Why is that year important to you?
Demonstrate more.
Abolishment of what? Y'all act like y'all scared to say it.
That was the solo.
The abolishment of slavery. All right? Who was the president at that time when slavery was abolished?
Lincoln.
President Abraham Lincoln. Islam? Do the research. You're going to find out a whole bunch of research that you didn't know. Research the proclamations of Abraham Lincoln. Read all of them. You're going to find things that you thought you knew, but you didn't. They gave you a bad narrative. Right? Research it. All right? You got a lot of studying to do. Right? Question everything you've been taught. And comb through the works of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Take serious. Attend your meetings to the Moorish Science Temple of America. Because you don't know what spirit is going to send through each week. And it might be something that answers something, that you've wondered your whole life. We might have potential political leaders in the room right now.
That's right.
And don't even know. But when you go up there, we need you to take the proper information so you can represent us properly. Because don't get up in there talking about we know Negroes. Because if you're saying you're black, the word Negro is the word black.
That's right.
Y'all aware of that, right? How many people right now, if you went out there and called somebody a Negro? I ain't no Negro. Are you black? Yeah, I'm black. Black is the English version of the Spanish word negra. So the English didn't speak Spanish, so the equivalent thereof is black. It's the same thing. You realize that, right? So to call yourself black is to call yourself a Negro. How does that feel? How them shoes fit? Islam?
Islam.
So Moors, stop playing the games. Stop lying to the world, because the world knows you're not Negroes, blacks, coloreds, Ethiopians, African Americans. They know you can't be two continents. You Africa and America. Islam?
Islam.
All right? Stop playing be yourself and no one else, and we can get something done. And we can build a legacy for our babies. If you keep this up, I know we're not going to make another couple generations. We might not make one more generation. Headed like this. Islam?
Islam.
All right? Also, for those taking notes, write down the King Alfred Plan. Write down the REX, REX 84, Martial Law Contingency Plan. And write down FEMA. Capital F, FEMA, all caps. Research all of that, and you'll see what they have in plan in store for those with no nationality, with a bunch of emotion. You'll find that out. Islam? Now, the Prophet gives us a degree that hope shall ever be his beacon light. Right? So we're not here to be morbid, we're here to inspire you with hope. The answer is present. It's not like there is no answer. We have an answer present, right? But we need your commitment. Without your commitment, we can't get anything done. Islam? Every government is comprised of citizens, right? If it's a monarchy, monarchy has subjects. But without the people, there is no government. Islam? The government that you're looking for is yourself. It's all of you together. Islam? And all of them out there. Until we do, like a lot of the brothers and sisters do in this room, and go out and invite the ones out to come hear the message, until we're doing that, we're still playing with the movement of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. He did more in his day with no U.S. highways, with no cell phones, with no internet, than we do now with all of that. We can talk to people in Indonesian chat. I talked to a brother from Accra, Ghana the other day, who follows my post, and I put up a picture of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. He said, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, all praises to Allah. He's an Orthodox Sunni Muslim. He don't believe in nobody past the Prophet Muhammad. But he's watching us over here, because these classes, he's watching them in Ghana. Islam? That's the work, the type of effect that you have over the nations. People are watching what you do over here. Real quick, I'll say this and then I'll lower the meeting. Y'all remember Nelson Mandela's imprisonment? Y'all remember that, right? He did 27 years, right? Who was fighting for Nelson Mandela's freedom before the Asiatics of the West? Nobody, not even the South Africans. Once they locked them up, they didn't want no more trouble. They were like, oh, we just gonna go about and live our lives. Brothers over here picked up the cause, free Nelson Mandela. Start putting in rap songs. If y'all remember the 90s, y'all remember all that. Y'all kind of young. My great, I'm telling my age. All right? But the point is, in that day, all that stuff, people started the outcry, right? And because of the outcry that was started in the West, people in Africa was like, oh yeah, free Nelson Mandela. Right? So you have a power that's here in the West. Right? You have to even look at what you do with hip hop and fashion and so on and so forth. And you do all that while you're asleep. Imagine if you were awake and consciously planning the changes that were needed for the world. They would fall right in. You would be the head of the nations only if you hold up Prophet Noble Drew Ali first. The prophet says the nations of the earth will not recognize this movement without I, the prophet, as the head. Islam? There is no Moorish movement without Prophet Noble Drew Ali being up front. Islam? I don't mean his physical body. I mean his immutable doctrine. It doesn't change because truth does not change. The same truth he taught from 1913 to 1929 is applicable right now. That's how you know it was true. In fact, it's more true now than it was then. Islam? All right, so more, this is the work we have to do. Are there any questions, comments, concerns, or statements before I lower the meeting?
And we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of the said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865, during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now. And all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people, from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Islam? Accepted. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and a partial of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his Father God Allah. Islam?
Islam, Brother Rap. Okay, what I'm going to need you to do, I need you to stand on your square. Upright. Stand up straight. Upright. As upright as these pillars. Take your left hand, put by the seam of your pants right here. Yes. And your right hand, place on the other. Okay. Straight up. Islam was.
Islam.
And Allah's sweet and holy name was. This is a sacred time. This is a sacred right that's given to our Asiatic people, that's given to us by our prophet, Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Islam?
Islam.
Man cannot be Negro, black, colored, or Ethiopian, or African American. Islam?
Islam.
These were lies that were placed on our people. These were marks that were placed on our people. Islam?
Islam.
This is slavery that goes on right now that makes our people think that they're Negroes, blacks, coloreds, and African Americans. Islam?
Islam.
We are here to shatter these lies. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali has charged us with the sacred duty of redeeming our people back from their sinful ways. Islam?
Islam.
The receiving of this nationality card, my brother, is a symbolic right to remind you forever, as you keep this card in your pocket, right, that you are not Negro, black, colored, or African American, but that you are indeed a descendant of the ancient Moabites who inhabit the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa, whose present designation and nationality is indeed Moorish American. Islam?
Islam.
Right? What I'll do is I'll go through the card. I'll demonstrate the emblems. I'll read through the card, and then when I get to the bottom, you have two lines that you have to repeat after me. I'll just say I'll state your name. You just repeat your name after me, and then you repeat the two lines. Islam? Islam family?
Islam.
We have the star and crescent, the hand press, and the circle 7. Okay? The star and crescent has long been a symbol of Islam. It's also a symbol of peace. Right? The hand press, which represents unity, is forever reminding you that if you see a brother or sister in adversity, that you should never hesitate to assist them and to be there for their aid. Islam, and that hand press is not a shake, but it's a firm press, denoting stability. Islam, The circle 7, the circle is the perfect, perfect symbol, or perfect emblem for man. And the 7 is the perfect number for man. Islam? Right? This is your nationality and identification card. Identification for the Moorish Science Temple of America, and birthrights for the Moorish Americans, etc. We honor all the divine prophets, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, and Confucius. May the blessings of the God of our fathers, Allah, be upon you that carry this card. I do hereby declare that you are a Muslim under the divine laws of the Holy Quran of Mecca. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Islam?
Islam.
Repeat after me. I,
I,
Randall Anderson Bay,
Randall Anderson Bay,
am a citizen
am a citizen
of the USA,
of the USA,
Noble Drew Ali,
Noble Drew Ali,
the Prophet.
the Prophet.
Takbir! 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 All praise to Allah. Welcome home to the family of nations. Give our brother a round of applause.